Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's hearings. The Committee of Adjustment is appointed by Council to consider applications for consents and minor variances to the zoning bylaw. Please be advised that any applicant or agent that is in attendance in person at today's hearing for a specific application may leave the hearing once their application has been considered by the committee. Any applicant, agent, or member of the public wishing to address the committee for a specific application is reminded that presentations are limited to 10 minutes per person. So could I please have a motion to adopt today's agenda? Strength and Sims. And would the Secretary Treasurer please read the resolution to adopt the agenda?
Thank you. Moved by Member Strang, seconded by Member Sims. Be it resolved that the agenda of the Gravenhurst Committee of Adjustment meeting dated October 18th, 2024 be adopted.
Thank you, and we'll vote on our console on that. Thank you. And that carries. Thank you. Thank you. Do any committee members have any comments with regard to the minutes to be adopted today? And could I have a motion to adopt the minutes, please, Watson and Sims? And would the Secretary Treasurer please read the resolution to adopt the minutes?
Moved by Member Watson, seconded by Member Sims. Be it resolved that the minutes of the Gravenhurst Committee of Adjustment meeting dated September 20th be adopted.
Thank you, and we'll call for the vote on that. And that carries. Thank you. Do any committee members have a pecuniary interest in the applications being heard today? Seeing none. In accordance with Section 11 of the Committee of Adjustment Procedural Bylaw, I'll now ask if the Secretary Treasurer has received any requests for adjournment, deferral, or withdrawal from the applicant or agent for any application on today's agenda.
Mr. Chair, staff have not.
Thank you. The Committee of Adjustment will today consider 2 consent applications and 2 minor variance applications under public hearings. The Planning Act requires that a public hearing be held before the Committee of Adjustment decides whether or not to pass a consent or a minor variance. The public hearing serves 2 purposes. First, to present to the Committee of Adjustment and the public the details and background to the application, and second, to receive comments from the public and agencies before a decision is made. I will briefly summarize the procedure to be used for the hearing. The Secretary Treasurer will advise as to when, how, and to whom notice of the public hearing was circulated. The planners, Angela Jakatis and Adam Ager, or our student planner, Chris Sun, will provide any other information that is relevant to the application and summarize any correspondence on file. From there, the applicant will be provided the opportunity to make a presentation, followed by questions or presentations from the public, either in favor of or against the proposal. Committee members will then have the opportunity to question the applicant, the Secretary Treasurer, the planners, or anyone giving presentations. The proposed consent or variance will then be considered by the committee. If anyone from the public would like to receive a copy of the decision made on any application, please provide your name and full mailing address on one of the forms provided on the table at the back of the room. Would the Secretary Treasurer please advise how, when, and to whom notices of the public hearings were circulated?
Notice of the public hearings concerning the proposed applications were sent by first-class mail to the respective owners and assessed persons within 60 meters of the properties subject to the proposed consent or minor variance application and emailed to applicable agencies. Included with each notice was a summary of the application, a site sketch, and a key map showing the location of the property. The circulations were provided in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, Chapter P13.
Thank you. It is important to note that should committee approve any application, there's a 20-day appeal period, during which time today's decision may be appealed. During this appeal period, no building permit may be issued or other work commenced. Also, in the event there is an appeal and in order to be kept advised of a possible Ontario Land Tribunal hearing, members of the public must request to be sent a copy of committee's decision on the application. It should be noted that Bill 23 no longer allows third-party appeals. Only the applicant, the municipality, and certain public bodies will be able to appeal a minor variance or consent decision. Moving on, we'll now deal with the applications for consent. I now declare this to be a public hearing for application B03-2024-GR for McIntyre. I'll now ask the Manager of Planning Services, Adam Ager, to please provide any additional information that may be relevant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subject property is located on the Severn River, and it also abuts Rock Castle Road as well as Graham Road. So you can see that there. So it has a small frontage on Rock Castle Road just over to the left, Graham to the north, and onto the Severn River. The property's designated waterfront area in the official plan is zoned residential waterfront RW6. The property is currently developed with an existing, the property is currently within also the rural area as well, and residential waterfront towards the water. It's developed with detached dwellings and structures. You can see, although that photo is hard to see, there's a various lot sizes and shapes in the areas, larger land holdings to the immediate east, smaller land holdings on the Severn River to the immediate west. So subject property, the application proposes to create one new residential waterfront lot and retain one residential back lot as shown on screen here. So the retained lot in green would be the residential back lot, and then towards the Severn River there is residential waterfront. And the application also proposes a right-of-way, which is shown in the light green color on screen. So that's the existing driveway that's already going to Rock Castle Road, and that's currently in place right now. So that's not proposing to change. In addition to that, an application has been submitted concurrently for a zoning bylaw amendment application, ZA 10-2024. The proposed amending bylaw would rezone the retained lot to the residential backlot zone, which is the appropriate zone for that lot, while maintaining environmental protection to the north, the EP zoning. So you can see that light green shaded area and the retained lot at the top end, that's EP. And in addition to that, it would also add special provision to the retained lot in order to permit a lot frontage of 20.9 meters on Rock Castle Road, where 150 is required. And in saying that, it's important to keep in mind here that right now, the lot also has more than 150 meters of frontage on Graham Road as well to the north, but in order to use that frontage, you would have to put a driveway through the EP zone. So it does make more sense to utilize the existing driveway and frontage on Rock Castle Road to gain entry, both to the retained lot as well as the severed lot based on the existing characteristics and how the lands have already been developed. That concurrent zoning bylaw amendment application will be heard next week at Planning Council. As well, staff have also included other special provisions to address some of the conditions of consent that we'll talk about a little later on. With maybe we can move to the next slide, please. This is just a blown up version of the severed lot to provide a bit more detail. So you can see there are already some additional constraints on the property, specifically the floodway and flood fringe zone. There's also topographical constraints, a large rock outcropping. So in support of the application, the applicants also submitted a planning justification report prepared by Planscape, as well as a site evaluation report that addressed these environmental features. So the applicant's agent has been able, using the site evaluation report and those layers to ensure that a building envelope is feasible on the severed lot that is outside of those hazard lands. Also, you'll see one of the conditions is that the severed lot be appropriately rezoned to address the recommendations of that site evaluation report, and staff have included special provisions that are going forward to Planning Council to address that next Tuesday. With respect to agency comments, the Deputy Chief Building Official provided the comment that the Building Division is confident that the minimum size septic system and dwelling would be able to fit on the proposed severed lot. However, they would like it known to the property owner or potentially a future owner that they may be limited on what they can build, size and number of bedrooms on the property, and the property owner would likely be limited to a maximum building area or maximum number of bedrooms, as those are the primary consideration for septic sewage flow rates. So we did do a site visit. There's been a number of site visits on property. They are confident that a system can be put on place, but they just wanted to make it aware that you're going to have to appropriately size future development based on the system that can be accommodated on site. With respect to other agency comments, the manager of revenue, the infrastructure technologist, and the District of Muskoka all had no objections to the proposed application. So moving into site photos, this is then from Rock Castle Road. Next photo, please. So this is the existing right-of-way from Rockcastle Road into the subject lands. So again, the applicants are proposing that right-of-way to get into the property. So this is the existing dwelling on the retained lot, which is to the north, which will be rezoned residential backlot. Next photo, please. And then this is then turning and looking down towards the Severn River. So across the way is actually properties in Severn. You can see the river there. The taller grass, although it's hard to delineate here in ferns, would be approximately the delineation of the flood fringe zone. It was actually quite evident on site where that line was. We were actually able to walk it with the property owner too, who was very helpful in identifying waypoints so we could get a clear understanding of building envelopes, which proved useful. Next photo, please. So this is then looking and turning back into the property, that rock outcropping. So it actually extends to the back northwest corner of the property. The site evaluation report discouraged development on the steep slopes. So as part of that, you'll see in condition 5, there's a condition 5A to prohibit development on that, but staff are confident that the zoning being brought forward next week will adequately address that. Next slide. So this is then moving down towards, so the rock line continues on your right-hand side, then the slope flattens out, and the flood fringe lands would be to the left-hand side of your screen. Next photo, please. Is then turning from that. So there's still, this would be out of the flood fringe zone, not on the slope, and there's ample flat area here as well. Next photo, please. And then this is getting, again, closer to the water, just understanding the scale of that rock face. And again, this is then on the back side of the property. So away from where we were originally standing, we've now moved just to the back side where the driveway enters the property. And then this is standing more centralized. You can see the taller grass there. Nope, that's fine. Staff are satisfied that the application meets and is in keeping with the policies in the provincial policy statement, the town official plan, and zoning bylaw as detailed in the staff report. And staff would recommend that committee approve the application subject to the 5 recommended conditions as shown on screen. I'd be happy to answer any questions that committee may have.
Thank you, Mr. Hager. Do the applicants or agent have a presentation they wish to make? Please come forward, and we'll need your name and your firm and address.
Oh, there we go. Good morning. My name is Debbie Vandenacker. I'm a senior planner at Planscape in Bracebridge, P1L, 1Z8. I don't have a formal presentation. Mr. Agar has been very comprehensive in presenting all of the information that's required. So if you have any questions, I am here and available, and so are the applicants. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members of the public? And if so, please approach the podium and give us your name and mailing address. Anyone who wishes to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on. Are there any questions? Oh, sorry, I just read that. Staff's recommendation is to approve the consent application. Does committee have a motion to that effect? Okay, we have Member Watson and Member Ungerman. And I will ask Mr. Agar to please read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bear with me. Sorry, who was the mover and the seconder there? Sorry, my apologies. Watson and moved by Member Watson, seconded by Member Ungerman. Be it resolved, having regard to the matters prescribed under Section 5312 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, Chapter P13, that consent application number B03 2024 GR McIntyre be granted, conditional upon Condition 1, a deed and/or schedule certificate of consent for this severed lot will be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer, including all rights-of-way, along with a registered paper copy of the reference plan. 2, a digital drawing of the files for the reference plan, AutoCAD and version 13 compatible, and PDF version shall be provided to the town. A fee per lot being created be paid in accordance with the current fees and services charges bylaw. 3, cash in lieu of parkland dedication be paid to the town of Gravenhurst in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of the severed lot in accordance with bylaw 9749. 4, the subject lands be brought into conformity with the zoning bylaw by means of the retained lot being zoned residential backlot, RB7, and to permit the resultant lot frontage on Rockcastle Road. And 5, that the severed lands be rezoned to implement the following. A, prohibit development to the peak of the bedrock outcrop in accordance with the recommendations of the site evaluation report prepared by Zygopcha Consulting dated August 1st, 2024. B, require natural shoreline buffer to be maintained within 30 meters of the optimal sever level in accordance with the recommendations of the site evaluation report. C, prohibit habitable buildings within the floodplain, including the flood fringe, in accordance with section I-681D of the Town of Gravenhurst official plan.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Do the applicants, the secretary treasurer, the planner, or any persons who have made presentations? Go ahead, Member Strength.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. And I'm not sure who to direct this to. I have two questions. My first one is, does the driveway right-of-way have anything to do with the town of Gravenhurst, or is it just between the parties or party that owns the property? And my second question has to do with the retained lot becoming a back lot. Is there any intent for the future? Because I know that, and I feel like I've asked this question before, I hate to sound redundant, but the back lots come with their own set of rules. So is there any intent for future development?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, and perhaps maybe we could put the site sketch up just so I could explain maybe both. With respect to your first question, the right-of-way, it's just between the private landowners, nothing to do with the town of Gravenhurst. And maybe one slide back. Oh, sorry, my apologies. The full-blown out one. Yep. So then with respect to the residential backlot, staff have actually been working with the applicant and their agent for quite some time. This is actually a different iteration of a different proposal that came in, which was attempting to create additional lots than what's before you today. The constraint with the backlot is because it has such a limited frontage on Rockcastle, the only other opportunity really for lot creation would be up at Graham Road, but there's the constraints of the EP. So without doing a calculation or seeing what could fit up on Graham Road, because they would need that minimum frontage on a year-round municipally maintained road. So there really wouldn't be an opportunity without landlocking that parcel.
Anything further? Mr. Sims, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam. Do I interpret your comments to mean that there's no, excuse me, no further subdivision would be possible?
Mr. Chair, through you to Member Sims, I wouldn't say it's impossible. Obviously, we can't deny property owners to apply for whatever they would like. So even if the policies say something is not possible or would be difficult to, those policies obviously could be amended and they could make whatever application they so choose. We can't deny them that right. But as of right now, there are some policy constraints as well as environmental constraints that would make it unlikely that development could occur in the future.
It's unlikely.
Unlikely.
What were his words? Unlikely. Unless it came to us. Okay, anything further? And I'll ask our manager of planning services if there are any recommendations or comments to bring to our attention as a result of these proceedings.
Mr. Chair, staff would recommend that the application be approved with the 5 recommended conditions.
Thank you. So we will call for the vote on this resolution. Again, as recommended by staff approval. And that carries. Thank you. So I now declare this public hearing to be concluded. And moving on, I now declare this to be a public hearing for application B11 2024 GR for Clipsum. I will now ask the senior planner, Angela Jakatis, to please provide any additional information that may be relevant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subject property is located in the south central area of the municipality with frontage on Sparrow Lake and the Cache River. You can see that the property has a highly irregular shape, as shown in red. I don't know why, but would just guess that various parcels have been taken off prior to any zoning or severance regulations. As noted in the staff report, and as you can see, some of the adjacent properties do not have water frontage. Access to the subject property is from River Lane, which is a private road that comes off of Southwood Road. The property is designated waterfront area in the official plan. The entire property is currently zoned residential waterfront, RW6, and there is an environmental protection zone in Sparrow Lake. That's associated with a identified provincially significant wetland. So in order to address the proximity of that provincially significant wetland, as well as identified deer wintering habitat, significant fish habitat, species at risk habitat, and a watercourse, an environmental impact statement was completed. So this slide visually represents the findings of that environmental impact statement. The blue area represents a watercourse and associated buffers. The hatched red area, which is a little bit difficult to see, but in here, as well as near the shoreline there, that represents wetlands, identified wetlands through the environmental impact statement. The solid red area represents a buffer intended to protect potential species at risk habitat. And the hatched black area represents a potential building envelope for the proposed severed lot, though the environmental consultant has confirmed that anywhere beyond the 30 meters shoreline buffer would be an acceptable building envelope for the proposed severed lot. And then finally, again, difficult to see, but there are two small white docking envelopes identified on each of the proposed lots, which can be seen near the top of the screen fronting onto the Cache River. So in order to address the findings of the environmental impact statement, there are recommended conditions of severance, including a consent agreement and a rezoning to be considered by council next Tuesday. So the proposal is to divide the property to create one new lot for a total of 2 lots. There is also a right-of-way across the retained lot in favor of the severed. The existing right-of-way is shown in yellow on the screen. Although the retained lot will be oddly or irregularly shaped, this is a function of the existing lot shape, and there's no way to regularize that retained lot shape. Comments of no objection were received from the town's manager of revenue, the town's infrastructure technologist, and deputy fire chief. The chief building official stated he had no objection to the proposal, but had not conducted a site visit to determine lot suitability for building or septic area. So I would just point out that there is a recommended condition of severance approval for suitable septic areas to be confirmed. The District of Muskoka commented, stating they have no objection, subject to the use of appropriate development control techniques being used to implement the recommendations of the environmental impact statement, and this is also reflected in the recommended conditions of approval. So the property is currently vacant. It's located adjacent to a residential waterfront area. The proposed severed and retained lots would still be 2 of the larger lots in the immediately surrounding area. There is also a children's camp located to the west, and may be a bit difficult to see, but there is also a hydro line that runs through the property, and it will become relevant in a couple of the photos. So this first photo is taken at the southwest end of the property where it intersects with River Lane. And it shows the portion of the right-of-way that is existing and is used to currently access other properties. Then moving east into the property, this photo is taken at the end of the existing right-of-way, looking across the narrowest part of the subject property. In front of a separate property, you can see the dwelling on it on the right side of the image. And then the subject property fans out or opens up again, and it extends to Sparrow Lake. So just again, keeping in mind this property is vacant, you're going to see a lot of pictures of forest. But this is walking into the property further, and it's near the north point of the lot, is somewhat representative of the retained lot, much of which is identified as wetland. Then moving further northeast on the proposed retained lot, this photo is being more representative of the identified building areas on the retained lot. And I apologize for the angle of the sun, but I am standing on the hydro right-of-way in this photo and actually turned around looking the other way, looking south. So building envelopes for the retained lot would actually be to the left on of the hydro right-of-way. And then moving further north, again, the shadows aren't ideal on this, but it's taken near the location of the identified docking envelope on the proposed retained lot. So this is looking north across the Cashie River to, which is an identified narrow waterway, and where it intersects with Sparrow Lake in the more open part of the body of water. So again, hard to see, very beautiful at the time with the leaves reflecting, but this is moving east along the river and just looking farther east along the frontage of the proposed severed lot at approximately the location of the recommended docking envelope for the proposed severed lot. Final photo, just looking at an area that's representative of the proposed severed lot and building locations on it. In conclusion, staff would recommend that committee approve the consent application with standard conditions regarding a deed, survey, and parkland dedication, as well as additional conditions to implement the recommendations of the environmental impact statement, and as well as confirmation of satisfactory sewage system envelope. And that concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do the applicant or agent have a presentation they wish to make? Mr. McCann?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Rick McCann. I'm agent for the owner, 1038 Cowbell Lane, Severn Bridge, P0E 1 Norman 0. I have nothing to add to Angela's report, but if you have any questions, I'll be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members of the public in attendance? If so, please approach the podium and give us your name and mailing address, etc. I don't see any. So again, the staff's recommendation is to approve this application. Is there a motion from committee to that effect? Member Watson and Member Ungerman. And I'll ask Mr. Ager to read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Moved by Member Watson, seconded by Member Ungerman. Be it resolved that having regard to the matters prescribed under Section 5312 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, Chapter P13, that consent be granted for application number B11-2024 GR Clipsham, conditional on One, a deed and/or schedule certificate of consent for the severed lot be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer, including all rights of way, along with a registered paper copy of the reference plan. Two, a digital drawing files of the reference plan, AutoCAD version 13 compatible, and a PDF version shall be provided to the town, and a fee per lot being created be paid in accordance with the current fees and services charges bylaw. Three, cash in lieu of parkland dedication be paid to the town of Gravenhurst an amount of 5% of the assessed value of the new lot in accordance with the town's dedication of parkland bylaw 9749. Four, that the property be rezoned to implement the recommendations of the Riverstone Environmental Solutions Report dated April 2024 as follows. A, rezone the identified wetlands and species at risk habitat to environmental protection EP. B, identifying a building envelope on the severed and retained lots. C, identifying dock envelopes on the severed and retained lots. D, requiring 30-meter shoreline buffer from Cashy River, of which 97% is to remain in a natural state. 5, the applicant enter into an agreement with the town of Gravenhurst to implement the additional recommendations of the Riverstone Environmental Solutions Report dated April 2024. And 6, final approval be subject to the town of Gravenhurst confirming that the severed and retained lots are satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal, and that any problems identified by the town with any existing sewage systems be corrected to the satisfaction of the town of Gravenhurst.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the committee to the applicants, the planner, or any persons who've made presentations? Mr. Sims, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question, I guess, whether access to this hydro line or Bell, if there's Bell services, we in the past, we've encountered requirement of special permission for access to these. Does this arise in this situation? I guess that's directed towards Angela.
Thank you. Through the chair, in the Planning Act, hydro and related utilities have exemptions from requiring an easement to be granted by the Committee of Adjustment.
Not carrying on with that. Thank you, Angela. 97% of the shoreline on Cashy is to be reserved in natural. Does that mean 3% for a docking?
Through you, Mr. Chair. That means that one of the recommendations in the Riverstone environmental impact statement was that the shoreline buffer was to be increased to 30 meters with no structures or no disturbance, except for a 2-meter wide path. So the dock is not included in that shoreline buffer, but what it does provide for is the path and as prescribed in the Riverstone environmental impact statement.
Anything further, committee? Just a question I have regarding the docking. So there's no intention of having a dock fronting on Sparrow Lake on the retained? Is that, I mean, it looks to me like that there's a shore road allowance that's not owned there, but is there any intention of having a dock on the Sparrow Lake portion of the frontage?
Dock is not permitted for 2 reasons on Sparrow Lake. The first is, as you mentioned, the shore road allowance is not owned, so a permit can't be issued on land that is not owned by the applicant. But in addition, that entire frontage of Sparrow Lake is zoned environmental protection to reflect the provincially significant wetland that's identified, and docks are not permitted in an EP zone. So any dock on the property in its entirety is limited to the Cashy River, and the dock envelope, as members of council will see on Tuesday, is very small. It's a maximum of, I believe, 4 meters long, being a T-shaped, 5 meters wide at the widest part.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments? No? Are we good? Okay. And again, the staff's, sorry. Your recommendation, again, is to approve the application, correct?
Staff would recommend approval of the application with the recommended conditions.
Okay, thank you. So we will call for the vote on that then. Please vote accordingly. And that carries. Thank you very much. I now declare this public hearing to be concluded. Okay, so we'll now deal with the applications for minor variance, and I now declare this to be a public hearing for application A17 2024 GR for Chevalier and Ross. And I'll now ask our student planner, Chris Sun, to please provide any additional information that may be relevant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So today I'll be presenting A17 2024 Chevalier and Ross. So the subject property is located towards the south of Gravenhurst, near the border and abutting the Kashi River. The property is accessed via Sparrow Lake Road D, which is township owned and maintained. It is designated as a rural area in the official plans and zoned residential rural. The property features a single detached dwelling in a triangular-like parcel of land. The property is surrounded by predominantly naturalized lots that are either vacant or developed with single detached dwellings and accessory structures. Kashi River abuts the subject property to the south. Adjacent properties to the east and west are parcels that are used for residential rural purposes and are relative size to the property. The application has been submitted in order to permit the construction of an accessory building in the form of a carport. So that'd be just right here. With a front line setback of 12.6 meters, where a minimum front line setback of 18 meters is required, representing a variance of 5.4 meters. Comments of no objection were received from the Deputy Chief Building Official, Director of Infrastructure, and the Deputy Fire Chief. No public comments have been received up to date. Then moving on to some photos. First facing west, looking down Sparrow Lake Road D. Note the vegetation along the sides is quite mature here. And here's a picture of Sparrow Lake Road D looking the other direction towards the east. Again, noting the mature vegetation along the side lots. Now moving to the entrance of the property, standing on the driveway facing south. Note the existing tree cover and overall even terrain. Panning the view to the left, we can see the dwelling and the extent of the driveway, which has a slight decline downwards along the side just past the logs. So it's kind of hard to see with this photo, but there is a slight decline down here. Here, looking north, standing to the right of the vehicle on the driveway, note the vegetation and slight sloping up towards the road. Currently standing where the proposed carport would be situated. So again, there's a slope here that slopes upwards towards the road. Looking south towards the dwelling, you can see the proposed carport location. Note that the extent of the carport will not exceed the extent of the window and will remain to the left of the second line, and the height being limited to the height of the window. That would be just this window here, so it would probably just like lead down this way. This is looking south towards the staircase, towards the dwelling entrance. And this is the side profile of the dwelling looking east. Note the sloping downwards and the septic system. The septic right over here. Turning the camera looking east, we can see more sloping and mature vegetation. And last picture here is just the rear yard, which abuts the Kashi River, just beyond that point here. As detailed in the staff report, planning staff are satisfied the proposal meets the 4 test of the minor variance. Staff would recommend the approval of this application. That concludes the presentation.
Thank you very much. Do the applicant or agent have a presentation they wish to make? If they are present, anyone present? Seeing none, okay. Are there any questions or comments from members of the public attending? I see none. Okay. The staff's recommendation is to approve this application. Is there a motion to that effect from the committee? Member Strength and Member Ungerman. And I'll ask Mr. Ager to please read the resolution.
Moved by Member Strength, seconded by Member Ungerman. Be it resolved that application number A17, 2024 GR, Chevalier and Ross be approved and that the necessary notice of decision be prepared.
Thank you. Are there any questions, committee, from, to the applicants or Secretary Treasurer, Senior Planner? Anyone? Mr. Sims, please go ahead.
Try it again, there we are. Thank you. No, I'm just curious whether the Kashi River, we've talked about the Severn earlier today and its floodway. Does the Kashi River also have flooding constraints, or does it introduce flooding constraints in that area? That also, I guess, applied to the previous situation where there was a dock being discussed, but this is just setback more than anything.
Ms. Chikatis, go ahead.
Thank you for that question. So unlike the Severn River, the Kashi River does not have identified flood elevations or regulations in this location, only where it's associated with Kashi Lake is there a regulatory flood elevation, but not in either this location or the previous application location.
This is, I guess, just for my own clarification. Thank you, Angela. Does it flood? I mean, there may not be regulations, but I'm just curious what nature presents to us.
Good question. And I guess the real answer is, I don't know. What I can tell you is that where there are regulatory flood elevations associated with it is, again, its outlet at Kashi Lake. And I think that would be more of the area where flooding would be an issue per se.
Just from my knowledge of, there is a dam at the outlet at Kashi Lake. It's probably not a flood control dam, but it regulates the elevation of Kashi Lake where the river starts there. So whatever that means. Mr. Watson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just think that Angela would be able to clarify. This would fall under the Trent Severn waterway, and it would probably show up in their charts for flooding, if there was any. But I don't think Kashi Lake has ever experienced any of that.
Mr. Caddis, I don't think this does fall under the Trent Severn. It's the Kashi River is, in this location, is still a distance from that. Is that correct?
Thank you for the question. That would be my understanding, that it's not part of the Trent Severn, but I'm just going to try and look quickly and may.
Okay, anything further, committee? I think this, my opinion is this is a fairly modest-looking addition to a modest-sized home, so I think we're good. So, okay, and the recommendation, again, Mr. Sun, is to approve this.
Yes, staff is recommending that committee approve the application.
Thank you. And, okay, we'll call for the vote on that. And that carries. Thank you very much. And I now declare this public hearing to be concluded. And I now declare this to be a public hearing for application A18-2024 GR for Simmons. I'll now ask our senior planner, Angela Jakatis, to please provide any additional information that may be relevant.
Thank you. This property is located north of the urban center with frontage on Bryden's Bay of Lake Muskoka. The property is accessed from Bryden's Bay Road. The property is designated waterfront area in the official plan. It's zoned residential waterfront RW6 in the zoning bylaw. You can see this slide best depicts that the property frontage forms a small point of land and results in an irregular frontage. The existing and proposed shoreline structures are located on the east side of the point towards a small natural cove that's formed with the abutting properties. Property is located in a residential waterfront area with properties of various sizes and frontages. East of the property is Camp Shalom, and across the bay is the property formerly occupied by the Muskoka Regional Center. So the proposal is to permit the construction of a single-story boathouse and dock, where the dock is proposed to be set back a minimum of 0.5 meters from the eastern side lot line extension. There's a 1.1 meter setback existing there, so the requested variance is 0.6 meters. The proposed boathouse is to be set back a minimum of 1.6 meters from the eastern side lot line extension, where 6 meters is required, representing a variance of 4.4 meters, and a request for a maximum shoreline development area of 158.4 square meters, where 138 square meters is permitted, representing a variance of 20.4 meters. We have received comments of no objection from the town's infrastructure technologist, deputy treasurer, and from fire and emergency services. And on this slide, I would just like to point out the access stairs from the shoreline structures, which will come up later in the photos. So just standing in front of the existing dwelling on the property, which is located at the top of the property. Turning west, looking along the shoreline to the west, you can see the vegetation and bedrock which characterizes the shoreline in this area. And turning east, showing similarly vegetated area, and also this picture depicts the steep slope to the lake. And although the shoreline areas and slopes are comprised of bedrock, the property is well vegetated with mature trees, including mature tree shrubs, including ground hemlock, as well as undergrowth. So then, moving down the property and looking out at the lake, this approximates the location of a boathouse that would be in compliance. I'll talk about that a bit more later. Then going back over to, moving to the east side of the property and starting to move down the shoreline, down the property, and looking east towards the lake, and neighboring properties have similar terrain. And then just standing on the dock, it looks like it's a bit of a weird angle, but I was just trying to get in the shoreline structures on the, further to the east. The neighbor's dock is visible, and that's the property that would be most impacted. And when looking on aerial photographs, the measurement between the two proposed structures would still be approximately 20 meters apart. This just gives a broader view further down the shoreline, and staff would note, it's staff's opinion that the proposed boathouse would be in character with other shoreline structures in this area. So then turning on the dock and looking west towards what I call the point of land, this is generally the area where the boathouse is proposed. So part of the application is for shoreline development, and so in addition to the proposed dock and boathouse, these stairs leading up from the dock, as well as these stairs, as well as the deck that's attached to the dwelling, all of this is included in shoreline development. So staff would suggest that these stairs are an important and necessary part of shoreline development because of the access provided to the shoreline structures. With that said, those staircases are not a visible intrusion on the shoreline, and so staff do believe that this is appropriate to maintain this access and not change the shoreline access to accommodate shoreline structures in a different location. Staff are satisfied that this proposal meets the 4 tests of a minor variance as outlined in the staff report, and would recommend that the application be approved, subject to the recommended condition that the structures be located as shown on the site plan drawing. And that concludes the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Caddis. Do the applicant or agent have a presentation they wish to make?
Good morning, Ann. No formal presentation. Again, I would concur with everything. The details are there. I would just like to reiterate that this is sort of a labor of love for friends and family in the area, that they have asked that the location of the boathouse be where it was. They can conform if they go out to the point of that rock face, but then it would impact views. So in discussions over years with their neighbors, this was the location that everybody said, yes, this would work. It conforms with the surrounding area. So this way he doesn't have to shift where those stairs are, rebuild, impact vegetation. Basically, you're just going to improve the stairs where they are and then build a single boathouse there. So even though it appears when written, in written word, that this would be non-conforming, somehow it really actually makes a lot of logical sense on the land. So we're here to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members of the public? I think not. Again, okay, the staff's recommendation is to approve this application. Could I have a motion to that effect? Member Strength and Member Sims. And I'll ask Mr. Ager to please read the resolution.
Moved by Member Strength, seconded by Member Sims. Be it resolved that application number A18-2024 GR Simmons be approved and that the necessary notice of decision be prepared conditional upon the proposed boathouse and dock are located within the footprint shown on the site plan drawing dated October 7th, 2024.
Okay, committee, it's your turn. Any questions for anyone at this point or comments? Go ahead, Mr. Sims.
Thank you. I'm in support of this. When I first read this, I was a little alarmed with a 1 meter setback request, which at the outset looked to be quite a grab. But when you look at the topography and the helpful pictures from Angela, it does make sense. And so I guess one of my questions, and is perhaps best addressed to you, is that there's an allusion to support from the property on the eastern side. I didn't, and I'm not sure I heard about that from Angela. Was that actually written in response to this application? Or was it just a discussion amongst the neighbors?
Thank you, through you. It's family, so they were a part of the discussion about where the dock and the boathouse would be located, so they want it, tucked into the pocket where the existing dock is right now. I'm sorry, did I not answer?
So it's family?
Yes.
Okay, so there was, there was
Sorry,
nothing.
you can clarify a little bit better.
Sorry, my name's Kyle Simmons. It's my brother Eric. 1203 Bridens Bay Road. And I don't know the postal code off the top of my head. To answer your question, our first iteration of the plan was a two-slip boathouse that fit within the rules. It was farther around the point, and it stuck out relatively far. So when we first went through the process of planning that, my uncle's a couple doors down. We know the neighbors quite well. So we brought it to everybody and said, we're thinking about doing this. And the concerns were the projection out from the lake would affect people's view of the mouth of the bay, and they were concerned about affecting their enjoyment of their dock structures themselves. So we pivoted and came up with a secondary design that everybody seemed much happier with location-wise, but it doesn't fit the setback limits very well in the process. So we're sort of working through this process to hopefully come to a resolution that fits for everyone. You certainly can.
Apologies. My name's Eric. Eric Simmons, 1203 Bridens Bay Road. I just wanted to answer the question specifically that our immediate neighbor is not a relative, if that is a question that you were asking. Yes, and so we don't have a written letter from them either, but we have had many conversations with them about the development. So I just want to be factually accurate on that point. We've shared that neighborship with them for many, many, many decades. So we've known them for a long time. Thanks.
If I could just, thank you for that clarification. Just talking with your neighbors seems to be really important in a lot of these matters. So thank you for carrying that out. The question about the percentage coverage of the shoreline area, we're asking for an increase from what's permissible. Is that, and just, I guess this is addressed to Angela as much, is that because of the existing deck that is now covered in, just that one corner is caught in the 30-meter setback?
Through you, so you're correct that perhaps we could bring the site plan up and then I can really clarify. But yes, in addition to the proposed dock and boathouse, which would comply on their own, included in that is all of the stairs that are necessary to access the shoreline, as well as Member Sims has pointed out, there's a corner of the deck. The red line represents the 20-meter that open decks within that would be included in shoreline development. And so that, yes, that corner of the deck that I showed in the last photo, in this photo, it's also included in shoreline development. even though it's set back, it's not visible from the lake, I would suggest.
Okay, anything further, committee? No? Okay, I'll ask, Angela or Mr. Caddis, are there any recommendations or comments as a result of these proceedings?
Staff would recommend the application be approved with the recommended condition.
Thank you, and we'll call for the vote then on this item. And that carries. Thank you very much. And I now declare this public hearing to be concluded. And our next Committee of Adjustment meeting is Friday, November 15th. And as there is no further business noted, can I have a motion to adjourn? Watson and Strength. And I now declare this hearing to be, oh, I guess we should vote on that. Technically, yes, sorry. Yeah. Details. And that carries, thank you. So I declare this hearing to be adjourned at 10:01 a.m. Thank you very much.